Marciano was the biggest thing in Brockton's history.
Every time his car went down Main Street in Brockton, it would be stopped by the crowds of people that came around.
Tens and tens of thousands. Going down Pleasant Street, Brockton, going down Main Street, Brockton, down Brook Street to Eggers Playground.
And the kids just clamored to get near him, to touch him. They'd have their little cards that they wanted him to sign, and he seemed at times to be overwhelmed by the adulation that was given him. I mean, after all, he was just a poor kid.
Yes, sir, and no, sir kind of a guy, and very mild-mannered. If you met him and you didn't know that he was the heavyweight champion of the world, you would never guess that he was a prize fighter.
There was nothing glitzy about Rocky Marciano. At least in terms of image, he wasn't larger than life, as the heavyweight champion of the world has been so many times, and according to the American public, is supposed to be.
The sports writers would ask him, Rocky, what round are you going to knock him out? He always said this, I hope to win. He never mentioned anything about a knockout, what round.
He believed in getting things done and doing them and not going around bragging about it. He didn't brag about himself.
He didn't make himself out to be a hero. You know, just a hard worker. Grew up that way.
Born September 1st, 1923, Marciano grew up in an environment that was blue-collar, head to toe.
Brockton was known as the shoe city. They produced the largest shoes of any place in the country. Dad worked in a shoe shop. He worked on a machine called a No. 5 machine. And in the summertime, it would be a sweat box. It would be horrible.
He'd come home smelling of shoe leather, and Rocky never wanted to be in that. And his father always told him not to.
Dad was a dominating person, but my mom was a little bit louder.
Oh, she was the boss all the way. She would holler at him, and he would pay attention, too.
My mother didn't want any part of boxing. She used to tell Rocky, why don't you get into music? Or why don't you become a dancer? And, of course, Rocky would look at her and laugh and say, Mom, I can't sing and I can't dance.
He thought he was going to be in sports. No, he didn't think it was going to be in boxing. All his life, he idolized baseball players.
He played for a parochial team, St. Patrick's, and Father Jeremiah Minahan was the boss. He says, Rocco, why don't you give somebody else a break? Chiefs, he's been up there at least an hour.
And he would just stay in that playground, and they would pitch to him all day long.
His greatest hero was Joe. And of course, he loved Ted Williams. He always wanted to follow their footsteps and become a great baseball player.
He just loved athletics. He was always known as the toughest guy. He just never messed with Rocky Marciano.
One guy owed Rocky some money, and Rocky went up and broke his jaw. Did about whatever he had.
He was drafted into the Army in 1943. After that, his big league dreams ended when he failed a tryout with the Cubs. Marciano then heeded the advice of his childhood friend and running mate, Allie Colombo.
Many times, Allie and Rocky would come down our street. They ran tremendously long distances. I often looked at Rocky's sneakers. They were worn so almost threadbare.
They decided that they were going to embark on a professional boxing career. They were going to look for a manager.
After driving to New York City in the spring of 1948, Rocky and Allie hoped to convince noted promoter and matchmaker Al Weil to jumpstart Marciano's career.
Al Weil could really move a fighter if the fighter was good.
Of course, Al Weil at that time said, what do you have to offer?
Up until then, he was a rough and ready puncher, and his style hadn't been given the finesse that was needed for a real boxing champion.
He was just over 5'10". He was maybe about 185 pounds. He had a 67-inch reach. This was amazingly short for a heavyweight.
He hasn't got it. He hasn't got it. He's too clumsy.
Well, the only other person I knew that was that clumsy when he started out, and forever for that matter, was Rocky Marciano. Both of them, their footwork was terrible.
2 left feet, stoop-shouldered and balding, and God, he could punch.
He could take a punch in a heavyweight division. That might take you the whole way.
Weil agreed to arrange some fights for Marciano in Providence. But first, he insisted that Rocky take a lesson or two in the sweet science.
Rocky was so raw at the start that his trainer, Charlie Goldman, did a legendary thing, actually tied string to Rocky's feet so that Rocky could keep his balance. This was a guy who didn't even know the most basic footwork.
Goldman did teach Marciano a lot in a short period of time about shortening up his punches, being able to punch with both hands, not just his right.
When he turned pro under the direction of Al Wild, he was almost 25 years of age. That, for a fighter at that time, was ancient. He had every strike against him, a willingness to learn and to try his business.
He did things that were unbelievable. 1-round knockout, 2-round knockouts, 3-round knockouts.
We had a whole bunch of Italian boys from Federal Hill. Marciano would throw the punch, and as he's going down, the boys from Federal Hill holler out, "Timber!"
I told him in the dressing room, "You're going to be champ someday." Because I never had seen a right hand like this, you know.
Rocky was the coolest cucumber in the dressing room. He'd go to sleep.
He had this great ability to take a nap no matter what was happening.
I used to say, how you going, Rock? Tired. I used to see fighters in the dressing room. Some would be reading the Bible, others would be walking up and down, nervous. How the hell he could sleep, I don't know.